What's up, guys? How's it going, everybody? My name is Blitzwinger. Ladies and gentlemen, we are back at it again with another Spider-Man Miles Morales discussion video. First and foremost, I want to go on ahead and thank you guys so very much for the support on the last one. I was absolutely blown away by how much you guys enjoyed the top 5 villains that we are hoping to see in that upcoming game. You guys absolutely smashed the like button on that last video. Reached over 1,100 likes in literally 4 hours after the video went live, which is insane. So if we can match that for this one, that would be awesome. Today, we're going to go on ahead and pitch the idea of how to introduce Venom into the gamerverse, or I guess the Spider-Man gamer universe. But, you know, let's shorten it. Gamerverse seems like a pretty fitting name. Now, with that in mind, I do want to go on ahead and get a few things out of the way first and foremost. And that would be, obviously, as you listen to this particular discussion, I would love for you guys to go on ahead and leave your thoughts in the comment section below. I saw a lot of really interesting ideas for the last video that I did for the Miles Morales one. A lot of people were also criticizing me, saying there's no way that Venom is going to be in this game. I still will stand by it. I think that there's about a 60 to 40% chance of Venom appearing in the game. So anywhere from 60%, or sorry, I guess from 40% up to 60% chance of him appearing. That's my prediction. I could be wrong. I guess only time will tell. Now, with that in mind, I do want to obviously hear from you guys on this video, as well as far as opinions and thoughts of what would be a really cool way to introduce Venom. But again, keep it obviously at least somewhat realistic in the context of the Spider-Man PS4 universe. What does that exactly mean? Well, let's run through it. So first and foremost, let's kick things off with the idea that obviously there's a few assumptions that we have to make. Number one, the fact that the Spider-Man PS4 game wraps up with that post-credit scene where we see the fact that Harry Osborn, who throughout the entirety of the game, we've seen little teasers about like what's going on with Harry Osborn. Is he really in Europe on some sort of a study abroad type trip? Or is there something more sinister going on? What is happening? You see these little hints that you kind of think to yourself, like, what is going on exactly? Is there something that we need to be more concerned about? And obviously, at the very end, we find out that Harry Osborn is not in Europe, and in fact, he is in what seems like some sort of like a test tube, almost like Mewtwo or something like that, and we see what seems like a symbiote attached to him. And so based on that, let's make a few assumptions here. Now, again, we don't necessarily know if that is a symbiote, but for the sake of this video, let's make a couple of assumptions. That indeed is a symbiote, and the fact that Harry Osborn will indeed be the first symbiote host that we will see inside the Spider-Man gamerverse. So, those are kind of two key assumptions that I think we kind of need to acknowledge. Otherwise, you can't really even go with any type of pitch going forward, because then we could just say like, okay, well, we don't even know what exactly that was. So I think that it would be safe for us to assume that that was a symbiote. It looked like something that behaved and seemed to act like a symbiote. And so based on that, we're going to assume that that is indeed a symbiote and that Harry Osborn will indeed be our first symbiote host. Now, with that in mind, let's get to the pitch. So obviously the Spider-Man PS4 game wraps up with Otto Octavius being trapped and sent to prison, along with all the other villains that you battle throughout the game. But we also see that Otto obviously finds out of the fact that Peter Parker is Spider-Man. And so I think the natural assumption that a lot of people have, especially because of that little smirk that Otto Octavius has at the end of the game, that, okay, now he's shifted his attention and now he's going to go after Parker over Norman Osborn. I think that that's not really a logical leap, because to me personally, I think that Otto Octavius still, first and foremost, wants to get revenge on Norman Osborn. It's just that Peter Parker has now become the biggest obstacle in him getting that accomplished. And so he's obviously aware of the fact that Peter Parker is something that he will need to deal with going forward, but it is not something that I think he will look to as kind of the main rival that he will go up against. I think that Peter Parker is more so a nuisance that he has to deal with in order to get revenge on Norman. Now, at the same time, we are obviously aware of the fact that Norman Osborn is trying to figure out a way to heal his son, Harry Osborn. And it seems like in some way, shape, or form, they've arrived at this conclusion of putting him into this test tube or something, and some sort of a life form that seems to be keeping him at least somewhat alive for now, which we assume will be the symbiote. Now, the issue is that obviously we see that Harry Osborn is still not well. He's still not alive or walking or anything like that. Or sorry, I guess he is alive, but we don't see him like walking about or anything like that. So this is where I think it would be really cool if we see the fact that Norman Osborn is becoming more and more desperate for, after the events of the first game, he can't find any scientist that can figure this out. He's been researching and he's invested millions and millions and hundreds of millions of dollars into trying to figure out this problem of getting Harry Osborn back on his feet and running, but he's not able to do so. And so then, desperately, he realizes that there's only one scientist to whom he could reach out to, and that would be Otto Octavius. And so after that point, he goes on ahead and maybe meets up with Otto, maybe in prison, which would be kind of cool. You know, there would be a really cool dynamic scene there of maybe the two of them talking on that kind of phone thing, or maybe they meet face to face, whatever it might be. I think it'd be a really cool dynamic to see the two of them face to face after the events of Spider-Man PS4, and they're having this discussion where Norman essentially just makes a pitch to him and says, hey, listen, you and I both know you're not getting out of this place, especially because you don't have the Neuralink and you don't have the tentacle arms, so you have zero chance of escaping from here unless if someone else were to assist you. And then, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, he basically lets him know, hey, let's make a deal. You will be broken out of this particular prison, the Raft, and in return, you have to go on ahead and solve this problem for his son, Harry Osborn. Now, I think that it'd be much more believable if the immediate reaction of Otto is just like, nope, not going to happen, and he's just absolutely pushing away from the concept, and he does not want to work with Norman Osborn under any circumstance. But then, I think it'd be really cool if Otto Octavius realizes that, hey, this really could be a win-win situation, especially when maybe what persuades him is the fact that Norman introduces to him the symbiote concept, and maybe he brings him like a sample and he shows him how it behaves. And at this point, Otto is probably curious about the fact like, hey, could I use the symbiote in order to go on ahead and solve his problem as well, and maybe he won't even require the Neuralink at that point. So I think there could be a really cool character motivation there for Otto Octavius to then be invested and go on ahead and want to help out Norman. And so at this point in time, we then see Otto Octavius maybe accept the offer, but here's where the twist happens. And this is where Otto Octavius, as he begins to work and start to study the symbiote and how the symbiote may be the solution that they could possibly use in order to bring back Harry Osborn, he decides that this is kind of a really great opportunity for him to create a monster. So you really kind of go into the idea here of almost like a Frankenstein's monster moment, where Doc Ock is Frankenstein and Venom will be his Frankenstein's monster. And essentially, he realizes that he can kind of almost get two birds with one stone here, where he can take down Norman Osborn by creating and turning his son into a monster that will rampage over the city of New York as Venom. And at the same time, he will also get rid of the other problem, which would be Spider-Man, because he would create this giant physical threat that will be absolutely a massive, massive threat for Peter Parker and obviously Miles Morales. And so I think that that would be a really cool way to introduce Venom. We assume that Harry Osborn is indeed our first host, and so it makes sense. I think that the transition of the story would make a lot of sense in terms of it's not just a random occurrence of events where it's like, oh, okay, like, and Harry Osborn then turned into Venom or something. I think it'd be really cool if it's Otto Octavius who is hired by Norman because he's so desperate and he knows that there really might only be one other man that could help him. And Otto Octavius is obviously captivated by this whole symbiote thing because he's looking at it as, oh, wow, this could be a non-technological solution for his problem as well with the Neuralink, which obviously, again, with that whole idea, you can start planting the seeds in the concept of maybe other hosts in the future. In fact, you could even do maybe a symbiote Doc Ock, you know, with the tentacle arms and everything would be really, really epic looking for sure, where essentially Doc Ock might keep like a sample of the symbiote or something when he's experimenting on Harry Osborn in order to then try to solve his own problems. But obviously, as we know, nothing goes right as far as villains messing around with the symbiote suit, and maybe it takes over him. Or obviously, me being a classic comic book fan, I agree that it would be obviously fantastic if at some point we see Eddie Brock introduced and become Venom. But I think that in the context of the gamerverse world, or the gamer universe, I guess, that Marvel is slowly seemingly building, I really think that we will not see Eddie Brock as the first Venom, and I think that it will actually be Harry Osborn who will be donning that particular role. So with that in mind, let me know what you guys think. I definitely want to hear from you guys down in the comment section below. I know that some people might think that this is a goofy pitch or whatever, but I'm fine with that. I would love to hear from you guys. What is your idea that would actually be somewhat plausible? Like, obviously, none of these ideas could be necessarily true just because, well, we don't know what exactly they're working on and what their idea of introducing Venom, or how they're going to introduce Venom, I guess. But to me, I just think that that would be a plausible solution and a plausible way of introducing this character that we've all obviously got very, very, very high hopes for. So I'd love to hear what you guys think. Let me know down in the comment section below. Like I mentioned also, guys, don't forget to hit the thumbs up button. It really does help out a ton. And of course, I do want to also ask you guys, if you want to support the channel furthermore, consider becoming a member of the channel. There's a link for that down in the description. Members get lots and lots of different perks. And in addition to that, guys, if you'd like to grab some Blitzwinger merch, whether it be some hoodies, mugs, stickers, there's a link for that down in the description box below as well. Thanks a lot for watching today's video. And of course, guys, I'll catch you guys next time. Peace out. See you later, alligators.